Welcome back to another great week of podcasting on Far From Finished with your favorite hosts, Daniel
and Josh. This is us back from 2 weeks since the last podcast. We missed last week. We got tied up in a couple of things. Daniel was a little busy moving out of his apartment. I had a couple of vacations I had to go on that were not necessarily they were negotiable. They could have been negotiated, but I had to have a good time. You got to enjoy your life out here. But anyways, we're back.
It was a rough week, and we had a good time, though.
I mean, he had a rough week.
Yeah,
I had a great week. I can't complain at all. Not one bit. Great week. But Daniel, I don't know. That's all you, dog.
Thanks for rubbing it in, Josh. I really appreciate it. You're a pal, man.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, we're here today. We're going to talk about a couple things. And if you don't know by now, I'm a big dork, and I love talking about science. I love talking about news. I love talking about a lot of new things. And one of my favorite things, honestly, is science and spirituality. I personally think they go hand in hand. Josh doesn't agree with me, on the other hand, doesn't think science and spirituality go as well together.
Not so much as people like to think.
I personally think I don't know. Me personally, a lot of people don't think so. I think spirituality derives from science. In a sense, I think there is no spirituality without science. Or I think spirituality is science, per se.
I would kind of say that spirituality is everything that science can't explain.
But it can explain most of it.
But not even that, really. Honestly, not conducted science. That's not most spirituality can't be proven through conducted science. Most of it.
A lot of it can, personally, from what I've gathered.
Like what?
For instance, law of resonance, law of attraction, that can scientifically be proven. The fact of creation, maybe not as much of how we got here, but in the acts of creating things, we can scientifically prove a lot of that.
In the acts of creating things, you talking about like evolution?
Yes.
Okay, well, evolution would kind of be different than creationism, no? Because isn't creationism like something created all humans and all beings, all life on earth, all light and all dark, and everything that there is and everything that there isn't was created by some divine being? Or isn't that not like the basis of most spiritualities and religions?
Who's to say spiritually that that's not true, though?
I don't know. But what I'm saying is that science is more based on facts and observations, and what theories can we make based on these observations? Can we conduct a research position? Can we do some studies on this? Can we actually have results from those and things like that? Like most of that shit, most of the spirituality and religions and things like that have to do with faith rather than facts. And so that's where I would decide that's where they kind of split off from each other. That's where science and spirituality take a detour from each other.
To a degree, don't get me wrong. Science is a little bit of faith too, as well. Because spirituality is also a little bit of faith.
Mostly faith. That's what I'm saying.
It's not, though.
How so?
All right. I'm going to put a little story into perspective here. I want to give everyone a picture of what I'm seeing in my head. I'm probably going to do a terrible job, but just keep up with me here. So there's a theory called the egg theory. All right, correct? Are we keeping up?
No, we're not.
All right, well, anyways, as I'm going along the story, the egg theory is that we're going to be born into each person. We're going to live every life there is to live in humanity until finally we lived every life that we lived, and we'll evolve consciously into what one would seem as quote-unquote God. And if you were to believe in science anyways, you'd believe in evolution, I would assume. And if you don't believe in evolution, then I wouldn't say you believe in science necessarily, because that's pretty much one of the prime bases of science, is the fact that we evolve and we're constantly progressing. So who's to say the fact that we wouldn't evolve consciously? Which in essence is spiritual, right? Enlightenment. And when we think of it as this way, evolving spiritually to enlightenment is a form of spirituality, but evolving is also a scientific concept. And when we go into frequencies and energy, that would also be scientific as well. when you get into attracting each other and certain frequencies attracting each other, that's also going to be scientific. And to say, oh, but we're going off of faith that everything's going to be okay, or going off of faith that there's something better, that would, in science, you're also going off the faith that it could be better, that there is something out there. You know, when you're going deep into your research, not everyone's going to see your vision.
I would say that there's a difference involving realism, and you have a lot more realism in science. You have theories and things like, there's crazy things that happen in science that have only happened off of people being unrealistic. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is there are a lot of more unrealistic views in spirituality rather than science. In science, if something is unrealistic and they are able to test it and it's still unrealistic, they don't just sit there and worship it because they can't understand it.
Spirituality.
They move to a situation to go around that or figure a way to unlock that. They don't understand that to be something that's better than them, so now they'll worship it for the rest of their life. Do you know what I mean?
But spirituality doesn't necessarily mean creationism either, and that's where you're getting that confused. So
Not
spirituality doesn't mean,
not necessarily getting that confused.
and spirituality doesn't mean that we're believing that there's a heaven. It doesn't mean that there's a hell. Spirituality may just mean that you believe that there's something greater out there, that we're in tune. Like a lot of people, when you hear people say spirituality, you know, they say, I'm in tune with the universe. A lot of people don't necessarily believe in God, or if there is a greater being, they don't necessarily want to call it God. To say, yeah, maybe that is something out there that created us that's greater, but that doesn't mean that it's the only being out there. Because in terms of, like I was saying, in terms of evolution, if there was a quote-unquote a God that we look to, who's to say there's not something out there that's even greater than that created that? Because we're able to create children, they create grandchildren, you know? And as you get older, not everybody does, but people tend to get wiser, you gain more knowledge, you grow as a person. You're able to teach, you know what I mean? Just because we haven't seen our Creator, that doesn't mean that it's not there. And once again, you know, you're right, scientifically we would be able to prove that.
But that's what I'm saying. So, like you just said, so scientifically, if you believe in like a God that created all things, and even if you don't believe that, what I'm saying is, even if that were the case, who created that thing that created all things? Was that before that God decided that, hey, I'm gonna create everything today? What happened before that? Like, what was, it's just like that beings or supreme collective conscious to decide, make that decision to do that, and why did it do that? Why was it being given the option to do that type of thing? Like, that's where I think about it, is like, I mean, so like scientifically it makes a lot more sense to like look into things with a spirituality kind of taken out of the concept, like taken out of the picture, because if you kind of pay attention to spirituality, then that's whenever you start getting a little bit more unrealistic, in my opinion.
I mean, the way I look at it, because I'd say I'm a very spiritual person, but I like taking a look at things in a scientific aspect, because that's when you start to learn about the world a little bit more.
Right.
Spirituality is more taking that science, in my personal opinion, and learning about yourself. You take the science of yourself, but you start to learn the inner, deeper parts of yourself. And, you know, you learn your mind, but you also learn about how you feel, and you allow yourself to feel these feelings, right. Which is still science in an aspect. When you start to realize the things around you start to come together and how things flow. It kind of...
That's what I'm saying. I disagree with that. I don't think that's that... Because, like, the science part of that is you understanding the knowledge of what your body is, why you're, like, maybe your diet has something to do with your attitude today. Or maybe because you didn't work out yesterday, you feel kind of shitty today. Like, whenever you come to understand the things you should do, how your body works, how your mind works, and how you can collectively work both of those things effectively and correctly in every way each day to be the best you that you can be, that's the scientifically finding out like who you are and how to be a better you. But spiritually, to do that, you have to find out who you want to be tomorrow. You have to understand that you have to do all the things that science tells you have to do, and then figure out what to do next. That's the spiritual side, in my opinion.
The way I see it is, if you ever watched Carl Sagan's it's not a documentary, but the clip where he's talking about different planes of existence. You know, you have first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension.
Right.
So third dimension, if there's a square, second dimension, and the third dimension came down, everything, they're not going to be able to see the third dimension as what it is completely. So if you're
Right.
talking to it, they're just gonna hear a voice in their head and oh, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And in 2-dimension world, there's no up and down.
Right.
There's
It's
left,
just
right,
left and
forward,
right.
backward. There's no up and down. So if there were to be a 4th dimension,
Right.
we're not gonna
Who's
be able to
say
see-
that we wouldn't be able to communicate with like the people those communicate with like vocally or visually with the things around us all the time.
and what I'm saying is, so if there were to be a 4th dimension, and there were to be a point where we were to evolve consciously, who's to say we wouldn't, evolve and we wouldn't ascend to a higher plane, which would be the 4th dimension? Who's to say that's not the point? So the fact why we haven't seen this so-called being, because we're allowed to create things 2-dimensionally, are we not?
Right.
So who's to say that a 4th dimension isn't able to create things in a 3-dimensional world? But we wouldn't be able to see it, considering the fact that it's in the 4th dimension, and we're not able to comprehend what that other dimension would entail.
Right. But my point is you're saying who's to say that? My point is science. That's who's to say that, because if you can't scientifically prove that there's a 4th dimension there, then it takes spirituality out of the picture, no?
But the scientists
Because
are
if
working
they're-
on
but
figuring out that there possibly is a 4th dimension.
But that's what I'm saying. Until that science is proven, until that's in the air, and that's knowledge that everybody can have for themselves, because science has proven that there is a 4th dimension, or there is a supreme being, or there is something greater than us. A lot of it's really easy to say that there's not. No.
But what we were saying earlier is the fact, if it is science, there's faith, right? So in both spirituality and science, there's some type of faith.
But that's what I was
So
saying too.
to
is
separate both
But
would
that's
be,
what I was saying, that you're separating them by the level of realism in their, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the scientists, if they're not able, that's what I'm trying to say. If the scientists aren't able to prove this shit, they're not going to keep working on this shit for
They
50,
do, though.
for 50 to 100 more years.
people do. People
Okay.
spend whole lifetimes on research until finally they're on their deathbed. Some people have to.
But name one though. And if you can't, then that's what I'm saying. Is if it's not knowledge for everybody to have or everybody to know, then how much does that their lifetime worth of research really mean toward the science portion or the spirituality portion? Zero.
Let me give you an example. The cure to cancer. People have said that they found it. We don't know for sure because there's nothing out there that's a cure for cancer. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
holistically, maybe if you really want to go and try the holistic medicine and see, but I'm talking pharmaceutically out there. And there's people that have devoted their lives to finding a cure for cancer, and there's people still out there looking for a cure for cancer. So to say people don't devote their whole lives,
what I'm saying is that's a bad example, because there have been people that have actually found cures for cancer that got
But we don't know that.
got shut down by the government. That's a conspiracy theory.
Exactly.
But there's actual people that said that actual people that have told others and newsport people that this doctor, damn, I wish I knew his name right now, but this man did cure like up to 20 to 30 different patients of cancer, and they shut his ass down. His whole operation cut his ass. He was from Texas too. That's real. That's my point. So I mean, like, that's science, because they had results. That's what I'm talking about.
and I understand that. But what I'm saying to you, Josh, right here, right now, man, is the fact that that you're 100% correct. And spirituality, in my opinion, is the fact that that's all true. But what separates it is the fact that there might be a greater being, and evolution is a part of science, and spirituality is the evolution of consciousness. I think that's where, for me, it lies more so, is just evolving consciously. And that's the difference between, it's still science, but more so the science of our consciousness and what we are whole. Because our consciousness is what's beyond just even our physical form. It's all the data, it's all the information, it's everything that's already just stored. Who we are from when we're born, what's already naturally there, and when we learn to gather, what we learn to form, and what we learn to better each day. And that's where spirituality lies, and has faith in the fact that we can get there. We can achieve greater evolution in our consciousness. And that's what I feel like a lot of spiritual teachers do talk about. If you ever listen to any gurus or you ever read any books on spirituality, that's mainly what the focus on, is evolving our consciousness.
Right. So basically, you just said exactly what I said, because what I did say is that science is going to be the portion of understanding your body and your mind and what you can do to better that, and spirituality is going to lie in the, now that I understand how to be the best me I can be, what can I do with that? What can be done with that? where can I have effect in the world to evolve? You fucking bitch. Fucking busting your balls over here because I knew that we're on the same page. But I just wanted you to explain it to yourself at this point.
without fail, ladies and gentlemen. What interested me the most recently that I've been looking at, kind of really mind-blowing if you think about it, no pun intended, the way our brain waves not only affect how we perceive things, but also how the world perceives us, how it affects the way we live, affects the way we go about things, how we learn things, how we process everything. And it's crazy because the reason what got me into it mostly was thinking about it was when I was listening to music and thinking how music affects me. And people do have sound therapy where it helps heal people, where sounds can actually help heal people faster, or sounds can help cure depression, help cure anxiety. And it really got me thinking. So I started digging a little bit deeper and try to learn a little bit more. Once again, I'm not an expert. This is just something that interested me.
Are you talking about ASMR?
No, not ASMR. That's some people actually just enjoy that. That's not me. I don't enjoy hearing people chew or crunch on apples.
But they have like different ones for like meditation and like different ones for sleep and like.
Do they really?
Yeah, like calming you down and like other kinds of shit.
No, it's
but
not.
Most of them hoes are weird. Like you listen and some niggas like eat. And
yeah,
shit
I'm
like
not
that,
trying to hear
bro.
someone.
That
Some people
shit's
like that.
So weird because like I looked into it. Like some of them are actually look like they're actually kind of helpful because I actually listened to one of them. It was like mostly like humming. It was actually kind of nice, peaceful, but there was some other ones that were super weird. Like this lady was like chewing on the edge of a pencil.
Yeah.
And I was like, first of all, that's not even like what's fucking like good for your diet at all.
It's
like,
definitely unhealthy. You shouldn't be chewing. That's not good for your enamel on your teeth. I would say I wouldn't chew on pencils. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody.
And it wasn't even like she was chewing the eraser side. She was chewing like the lead side. That's why I was like,
Ew.
damn, this lady's kind of tripping.
Pretty sure that's really bad for
Isn't
you.
that like poisonous?
I mean, it's not graphite was poisonous when they used that. They use lead now, but it's still really bad for you. I don't think it might be slightly poisonous. I don't know exactly how the lead on pencils work because I've never eaten lead on pencils before.
Or made pencils before.
Yeah, either one. And if I'm listening to humming, it's probably gonna be Kid Cudi for an hour straight.
That would be dope. I wonder if they have those.
They do have those.
Hey.
You could find hour-long Kid Cudi hums on YouTube if you go look it up. There's one that's over the ocean waves. Really relaxing. I would highly recommend that. I don't know how that works in the healing of your mind, but
just close your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll be taken to the nicest beach on earth with your favorite friend Scott, and enjoy his beautiful hums for the next hour of your life.
how about this? Close your eyes right now and just listen to this. And imagine it's Kid Cudi, but it's me.
Flibber flabber, flubber flabber.
Beautiful.
It was aight.
Alright, back to what I was saying before you so rudely interrupted me, Josh.
You're welcome.
Apologize.
Never.
Alright, so there's different types of wavelengths in our brain, and they have sounds that you can go on YouTube and listen to actually that help work different types of your brain. There's actually 6 different types of brain waves. There's only really 4 important ones. You're going to have your delta, your theta, alpha, and your beta. It's kind of interesting because when you really get into it, delta is going to be the slowest of them all. Theta is still going to be pretty slow. Alpha is going to be when you're pretty much present in the moment. Alpha waves are one of my favorite to talk about because it's whenever you usually experience something beautiful or something breathtaking, you're really caught in that moment, and that's when you really feel those alpha waves. But beta waves are going to be the ones that naturally we're stuck in. That's all your cognitive brain function. Your problem-solving skills, when you're really trying to figure out things, that's mostly what's going to be working within your brain. But what's really cool to me is theta and delta. That's usually, where your memories are going to be stored, all, like, your fears, things from your past. That's where you're going to be whenever your body heals itself, too. Delta waves usually, deep meditation or sleep, that's usually when your body is healing itself. And what's really interesting about that, to me personally, is the fact, think about this. So I'm a firm believer in meditation. I think meditation's great. You should meditate at least 5 minutes if you have the time. That's not even asking a lot. I'm right now at 15 to 20. I'm trying to work my way up to possibly getting to like an hour a day. I know it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of time. But whenever you look at delta and theta waves, think about if you're in deep meditation, you can really work on figure out these things that are going on in your life, and at the same time, you could even heal yourself faster, potentially, because you could be in a state of where your brain is giving off those delta waves, and that can help to where you're healing yourself a lot faster than you normally would.
So theoretically, you can naturally kind of like transfer yourself between these frequencies, like through meditation.
And through sounds. They have binaural beats, if y'all have ever heard of those on YouTube, which also actually help to get your brain within those certain waves to go between
what about
those.
gamma waves?
Gamma waves and infra waves, those aren't as easy to detect, and they don't have much information. They think most of those are mostly for like cognitive signals and sending signals to different parts of your brain.
Passing information.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, mostly for that. So they don't focus on those. They still are trying to learn a lot, but it's not necessarily as much focus as the other ones, because the other ones are what, your brain.
They're easier to detect. They have more functions, I guess.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, each one's going to play their function, but for the basis of mostly what we're in, those other four are really important. And I always think about this. This is what really blows my mind, is the fact of, so if you're able to heal yourself that way, people even say, like, the mind is so powerful. If you can literally just pretend you're lifting weights and not lift weights, and you'll get stronger, because your brain will tell you, like, that you are, and you'll build muscle.
I always thought about, like, okay, so, like, you know how whenever you put your hands up against the wall and you can just, like, easily do a push-up, right? But you can always, like, kind of control the resistance you're putting on yourself. So it's like, I feel like you can still do the same workout standing up as long as you control the resistance that you put against, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're standing up against the wall, like, on your toes.
And you're doing it against the wall.
And you're on the wall, but you, like, put resistance on your hands, like, pushing on the wall type shit.
You'd probably be able to do that.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like you'd still, like...
You still gain some muscle.
You'd still get, like, some type of workout. Maybe not the same muscles would be worked out, but I think you'd still get a certain type of workout from the resistance that you're putting on yourself.
That's an interesting way to think of it. There's people that actually gain muscle in their sleep because they get it to where their mind thinks that they're building muscle, and you can gain muscle that way.
That's weird.
It is weird. And then when you think of stuff like the placebo effect, it's like you take medicine, and, like, people get better because they think they're getting better.
It's like, why have a 24-hour fitness membership? I'll just go to the gym during the day and work out while I'm sleeping at night.
It's crazy how the mind works, and it's almost... What people don't get is we want to say, oh, you need these things in order to get better, but your body is a natural healing thing.
Right.
And your brain controls all of that. So if you can get your mind right and you learn how to control it between states, you could heal yourself. There's been accounts. Someone was actually telling me about this. I need to look more into it. And if anyone has any information, they can definitely tell me and inform me on it. But there was a case where there's this guy who can go into deep meditation, and he can go for hours or 2 hours. He broke his arm or something like that. It was his arm or his leg, and he went into deep meditation for 2 hours, and his leg pretty much almost healed all the way. Like, didn't quite, but it healed during his meditation.
Like, when you say he broke his limb,
he broke a bone.
If he broke,
it was like snapped.
Like poking out of his skin?
No, not that bad.
Oh, okay.
Not that bad.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, he wasn't even bleeding, like, during the meditation.
No, it wasn't that bad.
God. But he just, like, snapped it, like, it just, like,
maybe
like
do
a
it
fracture,
himself.
maybe like a fracture.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But it went into deep meditation, and it healed.
That's kind of strange.
Because in deep meditation, you gotta think of it in the way I like to view it is, you've ever seen Inception? When they go further down, right, into the mind,
right,
time is different.
Right. It's kind of like the theory of relativity. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, in terms, if you're in your mind for that long, you're in a different state.
Right.
Time is non-existent.
It's an altered
You're
state.
in the power of right now. You know what I mean? You're not beginning and end.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of now is eternal.
Well, time is existent. It's just non-linear.
Exactly.
Like, you can kind of jump through time almost.
But then it wouldn't, I guess, the construct of what we consider time, it wouldn't be
right.
that. And the case is, so the idea is the power of now, which is when you're in alpha waves, that's the concept of power of now. So if you go even deeper than that, when you start getting into the theta and delta waves, you're slowing down time a little bit in your concept. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the eternal power of now, like the fact that it is eternal, it means that there's no beginning and end. So you're there for however long. You know, it might be 2 hours real time, but your brain doesn't know that. You know, it could seem like longer in your head, and that's what always kind of these concepts and ideas come up to me, and it's crazy how the brain functions and how these certain frequencies, these certain sounds can affect the way that we heal, affect the way that we move, through meditation and stuff like that, going into delta and theta waves. That in itself can boost your immune system.
Damn.
There's people that can get in the coldest of waters that we have, naturally cold waters.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would just, freeze up and their body would lock up. Can swim in it because they've trained their body through meditation. So they can just get in it and they're not cold. Like, their body is able to take that.
All right, but I also feel like that also has to do like where you're born, like where you grew up, like acclimations.
No, but they were
adaptations.
But they weren't born there. It's like
maybe not born there, but if you were born
someone who wasn't born
cold,
in the cold, it's not like that though. It's the fact that people can train their bodies in order to get in the cold water.
Yeah, I feel you.
It's almost, think of it as stepping on hot coals. You know,
I haven't.
It doesn't matter where you're born.
I haven't done that, so I can't really compare.
But there's people that can do that, and their body, they don't have burns on their feet. Okay. Mind over matter.
I guess. I haven't looked into that, but no. I do think that is interesting though, like, because there is a lot about the mind that we haven't even unlocked yet as humans. There's a lot of the mind that we don't utilize. And we haven't really unlocked the knowledge of what that can create or destroy at that point. So who's to say there's not like other frequencies or other types of waves that we don't even know about that have other functions that we're not even utilizing or paying attention to?
I always like I'm probably lose some of you here when I say this, but this is just an awful wild thought. I always think, so if you're able to tune into certain frequencies, would you not be able to tune into someone else's frequencies at some point if y'all are both able to match a certain frequency in, brain-wise? Because you think about it, you have sounds that can match certain frequencies, right, together, and they harmonize. So who's to say if you're able to put yourself into a certain frequency in these certain waves?
I would say that that's not just possible. It's probably already happening through just like... Okay, so I would say that if I'm able to manipulate you, that's me tuning into your frequency and using it to my advantage. But if I'm all in the counterpart of that, if I'm doing something to mutually benefit you and you're doing something to mutually benefit me, then we're tuning into each other's frequency and finding a positive like outcome from that. So I feel like in both ways, that's proof of people tuning into each other's frequency, because whenever you have a mutual beneficial relationship with somebody, if you're like, even if it's not romantic, it could just be friends, or you could be like a business partner or something. If both y'all are getting something out of that, y'all are both tuning in saying, this is what I'm gonna do for you, this is what you're gonna do for me, we're gonna help each other out. Like,
I think I see what you're saying.
But also on the flip side, if somebody is able to manipulate you, that means that they were able to tune into your frequency and see where you're kind of either where your weaknesses were or where you're making your mistakes.
I think that would be more on behavior though, which is still part of the mind. It's still a still a psychological thing, right, either way. But if we're going more into, I'm talking, take it one step further on some. I'm picking up your frequencies. I might not be able to read your mind, but I sense how you feel. Like some people, they say some people are able to do that. So I can sense your emotions.
Well, I mean,
I can sense how you feel. Or I can sense what you might be able to do.
Yeah. And
people always see it as, I can read your mind. In a sense, it would be. But think of it in more realistic terms of, I'm able to sense what kind of person you are. Or I'm able to sense who you are, your mood. You know what I mean?
Or if it's deeper than that, it's like if I understand the type of person you are on a regular basis, if I see that you're acting out of character right now, then I can like take note of that and pay attention and maybe understand why. Like, I don't necessarily have to ask questions if I know you well enough to understand that you're not really yourself.
Yeah, you can sense that. You just know something. Even if they don't show it, you sense that something's off, and you can feel that.
It's not that I know what they're going through or understand what's going on, but I do know that something's happening and it's not normal.
It's an interesting thought. That's something I think about. And if you haven't, I always recommend this book. But there's a book. It's a spiritual book as well. It's called The Power of Now. Also, another one I would also recommend is The Healing Self. They're both spiritual. The healing stuff also has a little bit more of the scientific side. Deepak Chopra, great writer of spiritual books, but there's a lot of science behind that, and that's kind of what's gotten me a lot interested in a lot of this stuff. And that's why alpha waves are really interesting to me, because if you can maintain a basis of in that state of mind at that frequency, people say it's possible, and that's what some people actually believe is enlightenment. Some people believe enlightenment as of right now, while you're walking the earth, is being in a constant state of alpha waves. That's not what they say it is, you know. They don't use alpha waves. I'm saying that right now because alpha waves are what is seen as being in the now.
Right.
You know, being fully mindful and being conscious and aware of everything around you, and really able to take in everything. It's not, because beta waves, like I said, it's that point where you're constantly using your brain, and overusing your beta waves, which is what can cause anxiety, depression, stuff like that, is overusage of your beta waves. Or even one step further, you're not using enough of it, but you're not necessarily accessed into your alpha waves either. So it's pretty interesting fact so if we're able to stay in a constant frequency of where the alpha waves are, how that would affect how you approach your life and how we see things. They believe that it would allow us to be less destructive than we are, because when the mind starts over analyzing things and overthinking, that's what has led to the destruction of our planet.
Maybe, but also not just that, but also greed has led to the destruction of our planet. And if somebody's in this state of alpha waves by necessarily, if somebody takes their perception on life is their, like you said, so being in a state of alpha waves, through meditation, you're saying that's kind of like finding enlightenment, right?
Well, you won't meditation will allow you to be in that state of mind during your waking state more often. Right. Meditation's more going to be where you're in the frequencies of theta and delta.
I guess more what I'm trying to say is if some asshole out there could have their frequency of alpha waves leading to them being in a state of power and finding that power to make them become greedy, and that greed to lead them to hurting other people and things like that. If they're able to continuously have those alpha waves and tune into that frequency, then they're going to continue to have that power and find that greed.
It could be a thing
That's what I'm saying. I feel like that's what it's gonna come down to. Is if you can do that, then it's not gonna just be a whole lot of people doing good for the world. It's gonna be some of that, but it's also gonna be a lot of the other things, because you're gonna have the good that comes with the bad.
What most people who believe in it,
unfortunately,
what most of the people who believe in it, what their views are on it, majority of the time, is the fact that when you are in that power of now, you're really grasping what life is. You're really understanding it without trying to analyze it. It's being as you are and understanding everything as it is, and really being able to feel. It's more of a feeling than it is a thinking. When you come out of that because when you're in your frequencies of your betas, that's when you're thinking a lot more, which is why people start to overthink, and that's what leads to anxiety and things like that.
Right.
And that's what people believe also leads to greed, is because you're not seeing things for what they are naturally. You're not able to fully grasp what things are. You're grasping what things are in your head, but you're not necessarily grasping things as they are naturally and what they are around you. Right. And that's why when people say when you experience true beauty or something that just really takes you off your feet, makes you take a step back, that's when you experience those moments. And that's why some people, when they trip too, you experience just fleeting moments of that. In and out, where you actually are able to understand, wow, we're all connected. This is something greater than myself.
Correct.
But there's people that believe you can access that state constantly, which would be in that frequency of the alpha waves. But through meditation, through the self-healing, through figuring out, bringing up the past sometimes and tapping into those deeper regions of your brain, those deeper frequencies, those lower frequencies. It's kind of a thing to think about.
Very interesting.
It is really interesting. And it interests me because I'm a person that thinks, as a human, I'm not saying you can get superpowers, but I think the closest thing to being able to have superpowers is through our brain. Our brain is like a computer, in a sense.
I mean, yeah.
And you can train it to be better and program it to be more efficient.
I like the way that Joe Rogan explains it. It says you're kind of this is like your spaceship. Your body's like your spaceship. If Earth is kind of its own spaceship. It's kind of hurling through space at all times, and but like for us, like our body is kind of our spaceship. Like you want your spaceship to work right, like you want it to work to the top, like optimally. You want it to do all the things that it's supposed to do at the peak performance. But if you don't do the things that you got to do, if you don't feed it the right things, if you don't work it out, if you don't meditate, if you don't take time to like figure out what you're supposed to be doing, like do the right things for yourself, if you don't like actually like take it upon yourself to be conscious of other people and do right upon them as well and find happy things for yourself, then your spaceship's not going to work right. And you need your spaceship to work right, because if it doesn't, then who the fuck is going to fix your spaceship? It's your spaceship, motherfucker. Fix it.
Exactly. And as we were talking earlier, you know, the fact of evolution, you know, I really do believe that we can evolve our consciousness through understanding the sciences of our own body and understanding how we can close the gap to reaching our full potential. If you're feeding yourself the right things, if you're learning what herbs, what foods are going to help your body gain what it needs, taking in the right nourishments, building your brain as well by doing meditations, by doing certain activities that are going to build your brain, but also exercising, working out, making sure you're healthy. At what point would you become something that we would ourselves would consider superhuman? Because if I'm able to feel, you know, I build myself to a point where I'm able to feel certain energies around me, or I'm so in tune with myself, it almost seems as if I'm manifesting things instantly. Because, you know, some people believe once you're able to tap into certain things like this, you can heal yourself faster. Mm-hmm. You'd be able to tap into certain frequencies where you manifest things from your thoughts to life a lot quicker. Because isn't that what creation is in a sense? You're seeing it, right? You're visualizing it and you're bringing it to life.
Right.
So in a sense, if you're able to build yourself up to that point and improve yourself, and we evolve to a point to where we're able to do that a lot faster. And that's where I was getting to a point. I'm probably going to lose a lot of you here again when I say this, but in the point of, think of it when you look at something such as what we consider God, a greater being. If they evolve consciously to a point where they're able to manifest what they see or visualize in an instant, wouldn't that be like something that we would see God as, you know?
Potentially. I mean, it just depends on what like is the result of that instant. That's what I'm saying, is like for you to say, okay, so even if like there was a collective conscious and the only way for our species or our minds or even just ourself, if you want to just break it down to the solitary point of view, at that point, if we all came together and evolved, like what makes you think we would evolve into something like greater? What if the evolution was just like basically like unlocking the finish line? Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's possible. We don't know.
If death was just if heaven was unlocking that finish line, that would make sense. If hell was just being reborn on earth for every human life, you have to keep living until you collectively understand that your consciousness is part of something greater than yourself. And until you unlock that finish line, you're going to keep doing this over and over and over again.
And that's why I'm a big... For that reasoning, either way...
It's kind of a pessimistic point of view, because you would like for there to be like a high heaven where it's like all glory and all good things. I mean, that sounds like a good thing, but it also sounds like marketing. Like...
in a sense. But either way, you should try to create your heaven on earth.
Right.
At the very least.
I like the idea that they say, I don't know what practice it is, that like the idea that's like you're like everybody kind of like heaven is whatever you kind of think it is. It's kind of like whenever you die, your soul kind of like goes to its peaceful place almost.
But what if you, in a sense, if you were to be able to get in tune with these things, you can choose what happens when you die. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. But like,
you choose what your heaven is.
That's like that thought. It's like you're not a god, and it's like, I mean, you're not either. So who are you to tell me that?
I mean, we might all be gods. We
Exactly.
just haven't unlocked our potential.
I'm not gonna say I'm a god, but I'm not gonna say that there's a god that I've seen and talked to and said hello, hey, how are you doing? Thanks for making me born today.
But even if you were to believe in creationism, isn't the whole thing behind it God created us in His image? Wasn't like the...
I don't know.
That's in the Bible. Creationism, it's God created us in His image. If that was the case, wouldn't we have we're created from Him, correct? So, like, when you make a child,
If we are God's children, I mean,
wouldn't we one day
be like princes to the throne almost?
exactly
like,
my point.
yeah.
So when we have children, correct?
Right.
They grow up to what you teach them. They're supposed to learn, and they're going to become an adult.
But see, the thing is that whenever you think about like, so if we're all God's children, then we all might be gods. But then you meet some people like that are out here, and you're just like, there's no fucking way you are not this stupid. Like, how are you acting like this every day? Like, come on, brother. Let's get you together, bro, man. It's like you looking dumb. Like, come on, bro.
We just got done watching Workaholics, and that's a perfect example.
Exactly.
How are you that stupid?
I mean, that's theatrical. It's a TV show, but the fact is, it's only funny because you understand that there's people out there that act just like that.
There are people,
and you've met many of them. You've understood that these Brads and Chads don't know how to live their life. They're just running off of fumes that they got from high school or got from Little League baseball or whatever
TV,
it was.
Twitter. Some people don't know how to.
Or Instagram famous people or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like, this shit's getting out of hand. People are acting retardo.
You can't say that.
I can say whatever I want.
I'll let you slide. But I just, what's our full potential? That's where I'm at.
I think it's kind of whatever we make it.
I want to test myself though. I'm a person. I want to push myself, and I'm not saying everyone should do that. But what I am saying is, think about that for a second. Just like put that as a possibility. If you start feeding your body the right things, if you start exercising when you need to, if you start meditating every day and really getting to learn yourself and really learning to tune yourself the way it needs to be tuned, where could we go? And I'm also saying not necessarily, we've talked about this in another podcast, psychedelics, I'm not saying necessarily do them. You might need a big trip at first to kind of open your eyes. They also have something called microdosing as well.
Not necessarily saying to do them, but you might need a big trip at first. No, but look, I'm not gonna say that everybody is dealt a great hand of cards to start with, but for the most part, if you live in America and you're at least in the middle class or even in the upper class, you have a chance to perpetuate your own future for yourself. You can be whoever you kind of really want to be. It's just about how much work you put into yourself and how much work you put into your community, what you want to do with your life and how much effort you put into that. And like once you figure that shit out, it's gonna be a piece of cake. Just go with the flow. Move. Don't stay stationary for too long. Just move around. Be active. Work out. Don't be a dickhead.
I'll put this into perspective, though. For what you're saying, the opportunity, and, you have something to make of yourself. There are countries out there, and there are people and states where people are enslaved, and people don't have options. And that's the point I want to make is also, if you have the capability of changing yourself, we should be trying to stop shit like that. No one should have control over another person. People should not control each other. We all should have rights to where we're able to live how we want to live and at least have the opportunity. Now, I'm saying everyone should at least have a decent basis standard of living. Like, everyone should I'm not saying everyone should be living grand, but everyone should at least have some type of shelter. Like, this is what you're given. It might be kind of a shithole, but at least it's, you're giving a shelter. There's what's that? Universal basic income, I think is what they're talking about now.
That's such a good idea, but it's just like
I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good idea.
How do you put it into like play? Like, how do you start the movement on that? Like, how do you just build houses and say, here you go, here's a house for free? Or start just giving people
some people are going to want more,
people that don't want to work, you start just giving them money for free type shit. I mean, like, I understand, like, that's going to have to happen at some point, probably. It's probably going to get there. I think it might have to happen just for the influx of population, but I just don't know, like, how they're going to implement it. I don't know how they're going to start it off.
It's going to be a tough thing, but I think my personal opinion, you're going to have people who aren't going to want to work. All right, you're giving $1,000. Wow, you know what I mean? You're giving a shelter.
It's really like $12,000.
Wow. But then you'll see the people who really want to excel, they're going to. And that's going to give some of those people who didn't have a better chance at excelling. It's
going to give, I think it will do its job at about a 50-50 rate at a giving 50% of the population incentive to go after their dreams and do things that they love to do, because now they have money for rent and food and shit. Now they don't have to necessarily worry about that. They can focus on other things. But it's also going to take the other 50% of the population and take their motivation through the floor, and they're just going to be lazy fucks.
But I think that's
get paid $12,000 a year, use it all on food, figure out the living situation later, potentially might already have it figured out for them, maybe with their parents or whatever it is. But a lot of people are going to be lazy as shit.
But I think once people,
in my opinion,
we're going to see how it goes, because I think the future is leaving a lot of room for people to actually work on themselves and become more aware and be able to actually improve on what we could be doing, and it's going to give us more room for our creative side and more room for things where we can start doing things that are going to be building a better future, instead of worrying about, oh no, someone's going to be taking our job packaging these fucking boxes. What are you contributing?
I completely agree with that. That's also why I think that college and education should be completely, like, the tuition should either be free or severely dropped, because if these people are supposed to be, like, getting trained in their education to go be, like, good citizens in the community or in society and working hard, they're going to be giving back to society with the education that they learn. They're going to serve in the position that they're at and potentially do a great job. And if they do a great job, if they have breakthroughs, if they have research that creates change in history, it's going to be because they had that education. So if that's the case, why do they have to pay to get that education if they're already going to give back to the community and to society?
Exactly. Why are we paying? And they don't even teach us the thing is, in basic education, you learn, I guess, basic knowledge, but they don't teach you anything about life, how to give back. Think about it. If we all were actually taught how to really succeed, we'd all be really mostly helping each other. And at some point, when I do, like you were saying earlier, when we do start excelling and we start evolving, there are going to be people who probably will evolve faster than others that might be using, like, saying some of these people don't deserve it, and they might take that and use it for evil. It's very possible.
Which also makes you think about the past, because, like, that's probably how most of the people that are in power today probably got there, because they probably said, I'm above these people, and I'm going to take and take and take instead of giving back and helping out other people. I'm above them. They don't deserve this. That's probably where the people in power are today. That's probably their mindset as well.
And I mean, like I said,
it's terrible.
Bringing a destruction to everything. And I think it blows my mind how we don't learn about what can make us better. What really could help us succeed as a society, working together, actually building things. Think about way back when they actually took the time to put thought into the architecture and the buildings that they
the
made.
Pyramids and shit. Fucking mathematical.
You can go back to that far.
Oh, were you talking about?
Cathedral, even just cathedrals and all this, stuff. That's another thing I wanted to bring up also. I forgot. I was just thinking about it whenever I was talking about it. Is there literally, back when they were building stuff back in the Renaissance, that was one of the most creative periods of time in history. But when they were building those structures, some of them were built in with certain frequencies, so when you did walk in, you would either relax or your brain would feel as different, like it would tune in with certain parts of your brain waves so that you would feel a certain type of way when you did walk in, because of the tension is the resonance of the building itself, and that is crazy in my opinion. It's said that certain cathedrals that were built and other buildings that were built had certain frequencies due to the resonance in the building when they built it, so that when you walked in, you would feel more at peace, more at ease. Some even say that it would activate the alpha waves when you did walk in because of the tension in the building. So that's why some people, when they walk in, they feel so, this is so beautiful.
Not yet. There's a church in Leak City, a couple miles from my dad's house. It's like they have like a 24-hour like prayer thing, like kind of room. He says he's like, even if you don't even like believe in God, even if you don't like have anything to pray for, if you walk in there, it just feels incredible. Like you feel like you can, like, it's so easy to meditate in there. Like you can just sit and like be quiet and be still and just understand like the absolute silence and just enjoy it for a few moments. You don't get on your phone. You don't listen to music. You just enjoy the silence because you really don't have that anywhere else.
I think what's wild to me is how do we backtrack from that? Because people say like the Renaissance was one of the most creative periods of time
Right.
that there was, in any form of art. How was it that buildings back then, they took the time to make them that beautiful, and now it doesn't matter. You don't see that much.
Now it's
creativity.
about how much is it gonna cost.
How much room can we fit in there?
Right.
How many spaces can we fit within this one area?
Right.
You don't see how many times you walk into a Subway like, wow, this feels great. No, I feel at peace. No, like buildings then were really, they took their time. Think of it. They had, what was it, the Michelangelo?
Mm-hmm.
They had the mural. Mm-hmm. They really took their time to put these structures together, piece by piece. Not just the artwork as in visual art, but even with just sounds and the way they created the building.
Even with like the Vatican and stuff like that, like the way that those are structured.
Beautiful.
Incredible.
And when you one of the things for me as well is, I don't know if you've ever heard the law of resonance, similar to the law of attraction. So if you look up the law of attraction, I'm not going to go as much into that. I'd rather talk about the law of resonance since it's kind of going into what we're talking about. It's the sense of when you do have certain frequencies and when you're able to tap into certain frequencies, you're going to attract other frequencies that are the same as you. So you're going to start attracting to a lot of those things when you tap into certain frequencies. That's what you'll bring around you, which is similar to the law of attraction. And it's kind of cool that that's science. You know what I mean? That's
kind of like,
people think that's spirituality. When it's like, oh, you think a certain way, you're gonna attract. That's what it is to you.
Eagles soar with eagles type shit.
And the thing is, that's what I was trying to say earlier as well. Is people see this, oh, that's spirituality, or that's fake. When you really break it down to how energy actually works, that's science.
I mean,
and how energy flows in between each other, and when you get into signals as well between each other, which is what blows my mind. When you think of electrical current, how it sends signals back and forth, your brain works the same way.
Yeah, you have neurons in your gut, heart, in different places in your body that connect straight to your brain.
Constantly sending signals to each other.
Electrical signals to each other. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you don't really take the time to oh, that's mumbo jumbo. Yes, some of what some people say is a bunch of bullshit. Don't get me wrong. Some people definitely feed off of that and try to act like they know what's going on. And they're gonna
poop butt. So if you ask me,
I can see into the future. Don't get me wrong. I feel like some people can actually feel something. There are people that can tell you, I feel like something's gonna happen. Or legitimately they can feel that energy.
Right.
But there are a probably far larger number of people that say, I can. Your daughter. Is she 5 years old? No, bitch. I don't even have a daughter. Did you see that video on Twitter where that lady was saying she showed a picture of herself when she was a kid and was like, yeah, she's missing. And then she's like, she's still alive, or no, she's dead or something. She made up some kind of lie.
And it was her?
It was her. The lady was like, I don't know if you knew this, but that picture of the little girl I showed you, that's me. She's alive. I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
This is me.
I'm not dead. Or am I?
She was like, oh, that was you. And then she made up some other lie, got up, she's like, I have to leave.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Nah, I feel like it's just okay, so if you allow somebody to bullshit you, of course they're gonna do it. Why wouldn't they? If you're gullible, then people are gonna take advantage of you. That's just inherently just the way that people are. Of course, not everybody's gonna take advantage of you because not everybody's out to get you or has a plot against you. But if somebody out there notices that you are not necessarily the most strong-willed person and you'll kind of do what other people tell you to do on a whim, people are going to take that to note and see what they can get off of that in any moment.
Oh, of course. People are going to take advantage. And that's why I want to steer away from that, bro. You just don't take advantage of people. You help someone out.
Exactly.
They help you out, Think about how much better things would flow instead of, I'm going to screw you over for my own benefit. How about this? We're all dealt shitty cards at times. You take your L's. You work to be better. They'll help you when they can. You help them when you can.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to do that, but sometimes your L's are like just like
back to back to back and
that, or
harsh.
just like super harsh. It doesn't even have to be back to back to back. It could just be one like super harsh one, like somebody could like murder your family or something like that. That'd be
true.
super harsh. You'd be like,
Chop
whoa,
off your legs and
fucking
arms.
Christ! How do I recover from this one and then start helping people again, like type shit. Like as some people can't get back up.
That's kind of a tough
it's
one.
A life like. I mean, when life gives you lemons, you gotta make lemonade, I guess.
But that's a fair point. Not everyone's gonna.
It's hard, bro. It's not easy.
You shouldn't be murdering people. Anyway.
Please don't. Yeah, don't murder anybody. No murdering.
But on the note of how I feel like we've come so far, yet we've backtracked so much. Think about back to when the pyramids were built and how well they did that. You had mummification. They were already writing stuff. You know, they had basically like pretty much libraries then. And then there was the time in the Greek periods of time where they burned basically all the libraries. How many times have we've gotten so far?
Probably a lot of
and we're gonna destroy everything.
But the craziest thing I've always thought about whenever it comes to like even when I was a kid, I thought about it because like the way that they describe technology is like this is gonna make life easier. I always like, why are we trying to make life easier? Like, I mean, like, isn't kind of like the beauty in the struggle? Like, you know what I mean? Like, isn't kind of the most of the beautiful things that you'll ever find that were created by man something that took all of that man's will and power and even sometimes life. Sometimes people died for their research or died for their art or died for whatever it was. Sometimes they took the ultimate consequence for everything that they loved. And it was beautiful. And it fucking stands to this day. Like, look at the fucking Mount Rushmore. What the fuck? You know how long that shit took? Like, that shit was hard.
That's true.
Now they could probably do that shit a lot easier, a lot faster with all the technology that they're probably not telling us about. But that's what I'm saying. But, like, it would be easier. Why are we trying to make things easier? I understand why, because you don't want to work the rest of your life, but at the same time, it's just like...
That's part of what life is, though.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
Find something you enjoy working towards. Because the way I was talking about this with somebody today, is everybody now, they go to school and everything because they want life to be easy. They want it now, everything now.
They want a practical life.
They want everything now.
Right.
You know, I want to be okay now.
Right.
But then once you get there, what's your next goal?
Right.
Is it just over now? Your life's over now?
You're just sustaining a life that you didn't really want to begin with.
So now you're just living a life and you're like, this is it. I'm going to take a vacation twice a year.
Maybe 3 times.
You know, some people live a little bit better than that. You know, you get to do what you want. But really, I feel as though the thrill is in chasing some of that, you know?
Right.
One of the greatest creators and someone that, in my opinion, has inspired me as well is if you ever look at Leonardo da Vinci, that man was doing so much. He was not just an artist, he was a scientist and a philosopher. Mm-hmm. And that's someone, when you really look at what someone's potential
Wasn't he
hold,
an inventor too?
Exactly. And when you look at someone's potential and what a human could be and what he tapped into, that man was really doing a lot. Him and Michelangelo, during those periods of time, they were really out here, bro.
They changed the world.
Like, I'm telling you, I don't know what was in the air during that period of time.
Cocaine.
Is that what, maybe? Yeah, they probably did do a lot of drugs. But
probably opium.
Opiates were really big for a long time.
Yeah.
They still are kind of not as big, but they're not great. And so it's how we've retracted from then. That great of, like, I feel like that was a very spiritual time for a lot of people. Was doing that. I mean, there was hella cathedrals being built too.
It was also a very ignorant time.
That's true. The Renaissance was a very ignorant time as well.
I mean, as far as like the only knowledge you had was word of mouth from the people at the next town over.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean? Like,
so that was one of the most creative times.
There's no pictures or videos or online news or anything like instant. There was nothing like that. You had to fucking mail letters to the fucking government office like 10 states over.
Wasn't very efficient, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Things weren't extremely efficient in that sense. Precisely. Of course, you know, people were murdering people over a lot of stupid stuff. Yeah, those times weren't necessarily great. I guess I'm just focusing on what I think is beautiful about those times. Yeah. There was a lot of not great stuff going on then as well. But that stuff is just insane to me to think that's the potential of what we could be if we used it just for more than art, but in a sense of building our community and working towards something greater.
Right.
and seeing where we can go and seeing how far we can go. And really taking the time to do some research and understanding we can attract something better, and we're able to create. We have the power to create. We have the power to change. We have the power to do all this stuff and really better ourselves. But are we going to take it? It's not going to be easy. It's not a path everyone can walk right away.
Have to take the initiative.
But the thing is, it's becoming easier to do these things because guess what? If life's becoming easier and, you don't have to worry about some stupid job as much anymore and you're going to actually have to step up and find something you're good at, that's better for everybody.
I feel like it wouldn't be so surprising or staggering to find out. I don't know if this statistic is true, but I haven't heard it. But I wouldn't guess that it's not true. But probably the rise of obesity has probably risen about the same rate as the rise of technology.
You think so?
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it at all.
I feel like I see a lot of people starting to get in shape. I feel like a lot of people are hopping on the exercise train.
Maybe
because you got this whole vegan thing, be healthy and, even if it is ironically that people are doing it, to be, I eat healthy. Because, there's those people.
It's crazy.
You got your hipsters out there like.
It's crazy because, whenever you think about America, though, it's like there's so many fucking people. So, even if 160 million people in America were eating right and exercising every day or at least 3 to 4 times a week, that's still a staggering 50% of the population that's not doing that.
That's very fair.
So that's what I'm saying. Is it's difficult. It's difficult to think about that many fucking people. I can't speak for anybody. I know that I'm not even eating right or exercising well. I need to do better, but I'm not doing that. I'm not getting out of shape or anything. I'm kind of getting my cardio in here and there, but at the same time, I can understand where these people are coming from. Shit's difficult. I don't like working out, but gotta do it. Gotta take care of this spaceship I got here.
Yeah, you should probably do a little bit better there, Johnny boy.
Johnny, that's not my name.
Here's Johnny. We definitely gotta do better, and it's possible.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's not.
It's guys. Impossible. It's Kim possible.
I think I've said what I've had to say today. Josh, did you want to get anything off your chest to the people before they leave? Actually, I got one more thing to say, but I'll be a gentleman and let you go first.
I didn't have anything to say, so go ahead.
All right, that's great. Once again, goal for you this time, it was meditate 5 minutes a day. Stick with that. I still say do that, but tack on one more challenge here for you. It's going to be kind of crazy, so hold on to your boots and buckle up, kiddos.
Buckle your britches.
Because look, the next challenge is going to be every day you wake up, do something you enjoy doing or something you've been wanting to do for a long time. Find something you find joy in and do it once every day. Just find one thing that you've been wanting to do or something you've always wanted to do or something you really enjoy doing and you haven't done in a long time.
Unless that thing is killing people, don't do that. That's not fun or a good thing to think about. Let's seek counsel or psychiatric help if that's what you think that you are going to enjoy in your day. Don't do that.
Also, drug addiction is not involved in that. Anything that could cause self-harm or harm to other people, I would say that's probably not the best in this case.
Not the move. We're talking about fun things that are going to bring positive vibes and helpful memories to your life and others.
Exactly. So
boom,
5 minutes of meditation a day. Try it for at least a week straight. Doing one thing you enjoy doing or have always wanted to do once a day for 1 week. Try it. Just know also that we're here if anyone needs anyone to talk to. We're trying to make the world a better place. This podcast is all about change. It's about bettering ourselves and bettering the people around us, building a community that we can all live and grow together. Be wonderful people.
Don't put pineapple on your pizza, you heathens.
I love pineapple on my pizza.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Get out of here.
We love all of you.
Get them out of here.
We've enjoyed your time so much. Thank you for joining us today. This is the podcast Far From Finished. Don't forget we're far from finished because it's far from finished.
If you put pineapple on your pizza, you're despicable.
Have a great day, everybody. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Josh, and you better not put that pineapple on your pizza.
Don't
you do it.
Signing off.
Signing off.